I want to thank you all for coming out. As I said, my name is Jimmy Vitrano. We're going to talk about a very important topic today. It's really relevant in almost any industry. It is why your company needs a social care strategy. We're also going to go through how you can build one out. First off, we have just a quick housekeeping note. I'm told there are two very important hashtags that you should use if you're tweeting about this presentation today. Or the second one is mandatory. These are not my rules. All right? Start off a little bit about myself, okay? James Vitrano. If you see me after this, please call me Jimmy. I'm currently the Chief Digital Strategist for the Governor of Illinois. Your brochure is going to say that I'm the Social Media Manager for the Kraft Heinz Company. As of a few weeks ago, that was factual. Recently, I've switched positions. During that time at Kraft Heinz, I oversaw social care and engagement strategies for our entire brand portfolio. We actively managed about 130 different unique social media profiles every day, and all of that incoming traffic. It was a very, very exhausting job. Right? Seen it all, basically. Enough about me, though. All right? Let's talk about what we're going to go through today. We'll start out with a kind of overview of the current state of social care. Let's talk about why you should actually care about it. We're going to go through some great steps on how you can build your own strategy. Go through some best practice examples, and if there's time, we'll see if we can take a couple of questions. All right, let's get started here. The current state of social care. I want to talk about a couple of key statistics here. It's going to kind of set the frame, set the stage for why this is so important in today's world. Let's look at this one here. We've got 67% of customers today have used social media to contact a company for customer service. In 2016 alone, 879 million complaints to companies on social media. In that same year, Twitter saw a 250% increase in customer complaints to companies. So what do these statistics tell us? Okay. One, year after year, day after day, more companies returning to social media for customer service for the businesses that they interact with. Right? Two, it's not going anywhere. This trend is only growing. Okay. Now, why should you care about this? Okay. Why does any of this matter to your business? Well, aside from just operating a good business, being a good partner with your customers and giving them great service, right? There's also a lot of benefits that you can reap. Who here likes having more loyal customers that come back and give you more and more business? Well, studies show that when companies execute a proper social care strategy, they can maintain up to a 94% retention rate. Right? Very, very great metric to have. Even better, we all know the power of word-of-mouth referrals. These same studies show that when you do social care properly, these companies, their customers are 3 times more likely to recommend your brand to a friend. We all know how much power in buying decisions that statistic can pose right there. Who here likes making more money? Okay, I know I do. It's okay if you do. All right. Studies show that when you execute a proper social care plan, you can gain an average of 40% in increased spending per customer. Now take a minute to think about that metric, okay? Now if you were to actually achieve that kind of number in a different form of marketing, let's say social advertising, how much money would you have to spend to get a 40% increase per customer? It would be a tremendous amount, okay? So now we know we've got more loyal customers, better word of mouth, we're making a lot more money. There's a much more important reason though. You should care about social care. That's simply, you don't have a choice, okay? These days, your customers are more in control of the conversation. A single Facebook post, a single tweet can literally make or break an organization. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the examples up here, okay? Now, how you react to these, how you choose to handle them, can decide your fate as a company and how much success you're going to achieve. So we've gone through a couple statistics here about the state of social care within our industries. Right? We've talked about why it's important. Right? Now, we want to do a couple of quick exercises before we're going to dive into building out our strategy. The first one is taking a good look at ourselves in a period of what I like to call self-reflection. Right? A couple of things here that you're going to want to look at. Right? You want to take a good look at your company, all right? Look at its current status and its capabilities. Right? Do you have internal buy-in? Right? Talk to your higher-ups. Who are the stakeholders that need to be on board with this type of process? Budget and staffing, 2 of the biggest factors that are going to impact almost every component of your strategy. Okay? That's going to determine if you're going to keep this in-house, if you're going to outsource, what kind of technology you're going to use, pretty much everything. Another key component is going to be volume. What you want to do is you want to take a look back from about 6 months to the past year. You want to look at all of the incoming volume that has come through your social channels in a service perspective. With this, you want to look at where did it come from? How did it get there? Was it a private message, wall posts, tweets, mentions? Then you want to further categorize these. You want to look at the reasons why people were reaching out to you, and you want to place them into buckets. These buckets can consist of things like complaints, product questions, suggestions, basically anything that fits your business model. When looking at this data too, a really important component is to see what percentage was actionable. By that I mean of all the inquiries that came through your social channels for service, what percentage of that required someone from your company to act on it, to respond? This is a really key metric because it's going to help you, along with all the other ones, determine all the components of your strategy. All right, so we complete the self-reflection process. All right, we have a good idea now of basically where we stand. But before we get started on our strategy, we need to make sure the right people are in place. All right, so you're going to want to build yourself a winning social care team. Mind you, I made this presentation 2 weeks ago when the Cubs were still in the playoffs, but let's not forget last year's historic World Series win. All right? So what you want to do here is you want to build out the right team. Social care should not be a one-person or one-department job. You need buy-in from different departments. Okay? You want to staff your front office. Now, what departments are involved are going to vary by organization. However, these are some key ones that are typically going to be involved in your social care strategy. These are the ones, well at Kraft, we interacted with on a daily basis. Obviously, if you have a customer service department, they're going to be on the front lines. They're going to be the ones leading this. Marketing, key component in helping you with your messaging, aligning your campaigns, your business objectives. PR, corporate affairs. These guys are going to be the ones that you're going to turn to when something big happens. What if a celebrity tweets about you? What if that starts getting shared, goes viral? Legal. You're going to love them when things go wrong, I can tell you that much. Particularly if your product has a potential to cause harm to somebody or illness, like a food product, for example. Quality and R&D. This is someone you want to turn to for those really specific product questions that you're going to encounter throughout your social care strategy. When you're interacting with customers, they're going to ask you questions that you have no clue. These guys can help with this. If you have an analytics team or a social care team, this is going to be a great resource for you because what they're going to be able to do is help you harness all this data and all these interactions that are coming in and help make sense of them, help compartmentalize them. Right? So we've done our self-audit. All right? We've got our team together. Now it's time to get started on our actual strategy. What we're going to do is we're going to go over a couple of key components that can help you build out your strategy regardless of the size of your organization or the industry that you're in. First one is going to be defining your social care mission statement. Okay? This is really an important one. This basically is a shared understanding of how your company views giving outstanding service to your customers. It's something that everybody in your company, regardless of their level, can understand, can keep top of mind, and can embody when they're interacting with their customers. Great example of this is Southwest Airlines. You can see up here. This mission statement is succinct, it's easy to digest, it's easy to keep in your mind. Okay? And I think if you'd interacted with anybody from Southwest, if you're a Southwest customer, whether you're dealing with them online or even just on the plane, interacting with the flight attendant, okay? Every interaction with their company tends to embody these qualities. Okay? That's a prime example right there. So spend some time figuring out what your company is about, okay? What kind of service you want to provide your customers, and create a mission that you can relay to the rest of your company. We've got our mission statement down, all right? Now it's time to create some goals for your team, all right? Sorry, I like dogs a lot, so. It's important to establish goals just as you would with any other kind of marketing campaign, all right? Why? You want to track your progress, you want to be able to monitor it and use it to guide your next steps. Again, every goal is going to differ by organizations. However, there are a couple of key ones and key KPIs that you should be tracking. Response times, easily the biggest one by far in the social care space. That's why it's highlighted in red and it's bolded. I cannot stress this enough. Studies show that The average consumer who reaches out to a company on social media today expects a response within 1 hour. Now, it doesn't mean your company has to respond within 1 hour. The reality is a lot of people don't have the resources or staffing to do this. At Kraft, we didn't have the resources to do this. Nonetheless, keep this in the back of your mind as you're executing your strategy, because it gives you a sense of what today's consumers' expectations are and what the urgency is like in today's social landscape. A couple other ones you're going to want to keep an eye on. How many cases are you completing? So of all the engagements that you're taking in, how much are you taking from start to finish and reaching a completion? Same with resolution rate. Of all the interactions that you're having, how many of these are reaching a successful resolution for the issue at hand? Customer satisfaction, obviously a big one, kind of the reason that you're in this in the first place. Okay? Take a look at all the engagements that you're having. How many are they resulting with the customer walking away happy? Because if they're happy, when we talked about all those benefits before with loyalty, increased spending, the more you can improve on this metric, the better those results are going to be. All right, so we've got a couple of key goals assigned now. You want to get out there, get started responding to people. You need to figure out what is it we're actually going to say. It's kind of important. So with this, I want you to go back to that self-reflection stage. All right? When we looked at all the different volume that's coming in, we placed them in those categories of complaints, questions, inquiries, suggestions, all those different ones that you've seen come in. What you want to do is you want to use those with your existing product and company knowledge to create a response database. Okay? Basically, what this is going to be is a living document where you're going to break it out by product, you're going to break it out by a certain issue at hand, some sample responses that the people on the front lines can reference when they're engaging with customers. You can also add any notes, actions, things along those lines. Again, this should be a living document accessible by the front lines, also other people in your company, that team that we mentioned before. It should be constantly updated based on your experiences, based on what you're seeing as you execute your strategy. This is incredibly important. Also, if you're a larger company, you have a CRM system, maybe a customer service team, these responses should be integrated directly with them so they're easily accessible by your representatives. Now, building your response database, you know what you're going to say, right? But you need to figure out how you're going to say it, all right? So when you look at today, if your organization and your outgoing marketing efforts is using a distinctive brand voice, and they're speaking in a certain manner, using certain language, that voice should be consistent throughout all your social care. Okay? So any responses that you're posting should be spoken within that same voice. I'm going to give you an example here. Right? A couple brands from Kraft. Right? Devour, a gluttonous frozen dinner meal that was targeted towards young males. Naturally, we went with sexually suggestive advertising. Right? The language that copy associated with that ad followed along the same lines. So when we interact with customers who engage with us on there, we're going to keep that pretty consistent throughout. Otherwise, we don't sound authentic. We lose consistency. Okay? Conversely, go over to a brand like Capri Sun, where we're targeting moms. We can't use that kind of language for Devour when we're talking about juice drinks for children. All right, so we're going to go with something a little simpler here. Happy to see this is one of your family faves. Thanks for sharing. So you see the differences in the importance of maintaining consistency and authenticity. You want to provide a consistent experience for every touch point that every consumer has with your company. So now we've got narrowed down of what we're going to say. We're going to figure out how we're going to say it. All right. Now you need to figure out what type of process are you going to put in place when you're actually out there engaging. Right? So you want to create what I call an engagement roadmap. Basically what this is a written document that outlines in specific detail how anybody interacting with customers should handle cases. Things that you want to include, obviously it's going to differ by company and scenarios, but here's a couple sample ones. When you should respond, when not to respond. Some companies have a do not respond to list. All right? Certain issues you just don't want to touch. That's okay. That's where you're going to want to outline this. Prioritizing responses. This is kind of an important one too that sometimes gets overlooked. Naturally, you're going to want to respond to anything public-facing, tweets, your wall posts. You want to take those first before you go into your private messages. Why? Because you have a lot of eyes on them. Private messages, obviously, are one-to-one. You're also going to want to prioritize anything quality, sensitive, anything troubling before you go to the praise or high-five ones. When you should take a public issue to a private forum. Right? This is a really important one. A lot of companies do not get this right. They have a couple of rules that you can follow. When you're dealing with a customer with any kind of situation in a public forum, be it a wall post, tweet, a mention, if you can't resolve that within 2 interactions, take that one to a private message. Okay? Another aspect, if you're going to mention any form of reimbursement, replacing products, offering a refund, anything along those lines, immediately take that to a private message. If you don't, and you publicly post that you're offering reimbursement, suddenly a lot of other people watching are going to have that same problem with your product, and I can guarantee you they're going to be knocking at your door asking for the money back. Big one here, escalation strategy. When and how you should escalate a certain matter. Let's say it's a very sensitive issue. Someone's had a really bad problem with your product. Maybe it caused an injury. When and how are you going to escalate? And to whom are you going to escalate that to? Let's say a celebrity tweets at you. You're going to want to go back to that, that list of teams that we talked about before. Get your PR team involved. How should we handle this? How should we best respond? It's been retweeted 100,000 times. These are important aspects that you want to keep into your engagement roadmap. So now we know what we're going to say, we know how we're going to say it, we know what we're going to do when we're out there, but none of this will work properly unless you have the right technology in place. Okay? This is a really, really important component of your strategy. Now when I mention this, I'm talking about monitoring, listening, and engagement platforms that are going to help you basically identify anytime someone's mentioning your company, incoming inquiries, different keywords, things along those lines. You're going to be able to monitor them, you're going to be able to react to them, engage with the customers, and also track them. Right? The good news is that whether you're a company of 3 people or 3,000, there's a tool out there for you that can fit any budget. For any Seinfeld fans, if you're more on the George Costanza budget, I think he said he was careful with money. There are a lot of different platforms out there that will fit for a low monthly budget or a low monthly cost, and also some free ones. Let's say you're more on the Mark Cuban budget. You need an enterprise level solution. There are more than enough out there. So what you want to do is you want to do your research, figure out which ones are going to cater to your strategy best. There's a website listed there, g2crowd.com. This is a great resource for determining what platforms are out there, getting all their details, getting actual user reviews. It's really a helpful site. Another component of these technological solutions are the ability to track your goals and track your results. This is incredibly important. Okay? So this brings me to my next step here. You want to track your results. I'm from Chicago, so you've noticed a couple of Chicago sports references, so here's another one. It's very, very important. We talked about those KPIs before. Right? Now, those are kind of fun to track, whatever, you can see what you're doing, but unless you're doing something with them, they're useless. And this is where a lot of companies fall short. Okay? What you want to do is you want to have your monitoring engagement platform set up to be able to track those KPIs among other components, and you want to analyze that data on a regular basis. Not just analyze it, look for insights inside of there. Look for ways that you can improve, okay? Look for ways that can guide your next steps, right? Look for ways that you can evolve your strategy. Far too many times I see companies that will track data, will create great spreadsheets, all these awesome reports, and they do absolutely nothing with it. Do not be one of these companies. Trust me. So these are kind of the key components. I know we kind of went through a lot here just of your, build out your strategy. And I want to take a few minutes and going through some best tips and practices, and we'll go over a couple stories and experiences that I've had at Craft here. First best practice here. This is one of my favorites. I'll tell you why. There's a picture of an old lady up there. That is to be nice, okay? So what I'm talking about here is when you're interacting with customers in the social space, all right, particularly if you're working for larger brands that get a lot of high volume coming in, you're going to get a lot of negativity. No matter how great you think your products are, people are going to be negative. And they are a lot meaner when they're behind a keyboard versus when they're either in person or over the phone. So, how do you keep this nice and pleasant disposition when someone's screaming at you through their keyboard, calling you names? It happens a lot. Well, here's what I always teach everybody to do. Treat every customer as you would your grandmother. Right? Let me explain this here. Let's say you're at a family dinner, you're sitting next to your grandma, all right? She's having a problem, let's say, with her phone, she can't figure out how to send a text message. Now, if anybody in this room probably told you they don't know how to send a text message, you probably think they're a moron, all right? But not your grandma, though, okay? What are you going to do? You're going to sit there, you're going to take the phone, you're going to say, Grandma, I would be happy to help you with this, all right? You're going to walk through step by step on how she can easily send out a text message. And then you're going to go over it with her and make sure that she knows how to do it on her own. At the end of it, you're going to see if she has any more questions or if there's anything else you can help her with. And then you're going to tell her that you love her because it's your grandmother. I mean, look at that. Wow. If you can keep this same level of empathy, this same level of patience, and the same desire to help somebody, you're going to be, if you can keep this with your customer base, you're going to be incredibly successful in this space. All right? Next one here. Know what to do when things get real. And that is an actual photo too, which scares the hell out of me. What I'm talking about with this is that in today's world, things can go south very quickly. Products have problems. You know, we all know this happens. But in today's world, it's broadcasted, and it only takes a moment for something to go viral. It's important that you have a plan to deal with these situations when they do arise. I'll give you an example here. Capri Sun, a Kraft Heinz product. Right? This one's going to be a little gross. About 7 years ago, a mom went out to purchase a Capri Sun that she normally does for her daughter, opened it up. When they went to drink it, found mold in it. Now, obviously, very disgusting to look at. There's a reason why mold occurs in Capri Sun, and that's because it is a preservative-free product. So, if the pouch is just punctured even in the slightest microscopic hole and it's exposed to air, common food mold can occur, which is what you see here. No different than when you see mold grow on bread or fruit at home, things like that. Disgusting to look at? Absolutely. Dangerous? No. However, when you put something like this online, people react emotionally. And what's the first thing they do? They click that share button, which can become your instant worst nightmare from a company's perspective. Okay? When something like this happens, prime example here, with under 24 hours of this posting, nearly 140,000 shares of this post. Okay? And that was just within the first 24 hours. It did not stop there. It kept going and going and going. Millions and millions of impressions. Media picked up on it, started doing stories. If you do a Google search, yeah, you're going to see a lot of images like this. It's not pleasant. So what did we do? All right? Fortunately, we had a plan in place. We already had a really good customer service strategy in place, so we responded quickly. We collected a sample, did lab results, followed up, reconciled it with the customer. Great. But what about all those millions of other people who saw this and also reacted to it? What we wanted to do, and what we did do, is we adjusted our customer service strategy, going in more of an educational and informative model, explaining to people who reacted to this why it takes place. And you know, although it is unpleasant, we understand that, but there's an actual reason, and it really doesn't have to do with food safety. Because of this, we're able to kind of shift the mindset a little bit of our customers and make them a little more understanding. Not all of them, but at least our message is out there and it's there for them to read. We also, at the same time, enhanced our web assets, creating a very in-depth video about our commitment to food safety, about why this happens. We updated a very detailed FAQ section around this experience. So that was a really important component too, because we could link all of the comments to this for more information. Now, we talked earlier about using the data that you're mining to make decisions to guide your strategy. Well, by mining all of this data and looking at the situation, it actually led to a really big product change in our packaging. If you buy a Capri Sun today, you're going to find that it has a clear bottom. They would tell you that it's because to see all the goodness inside. Right? I'll let your minds wander on the actual reason behind that. What the example here, though, should teach you that you never know what's going to happen, but you should still look at your products, look at potential problems that could take place. Think about what could happen if something goes wrong and it starts getting shared. You need to have a plan in place for this. Next, I want to close out on something a little bit more positive than finding mold in your drink. That is the power of surprise and delights. And what I'm talking about here is seeking out opportunities where you can really make a customer's day, particularly when it's unexpected. I love telling this story here. This is one, we were at Kraft last year. We had a father reach out to or post on social media that his son Everett, who has autism, was having an issue because he fell in love with our KD Star Wars product, which is a Canadian version of mac and cheese. This is a limited run promotional item, which was only made for a couple of months. Now, absolutely loves the product, eats it all the time, and he's a really picky eater. Sometimes children with autism, when there are changes in certain products, they have a hard time adapting to it, and they will actually starve themselves. This was the case with Everett. So we post online, and he's asking, does anybody know where I can find KD Star Wars mac and cheese? We picked up on this throughout our social monitoring platform, and right away we start scrambling. We're going to every Canadian distributor within our network, and we're just trying, who has any KD Star Wars left on their shelves? We find a few. We gather as much as we possibly can, we box it up, and we overnight it to their family. Now, what you're seeing here is the reaction from his father. Thank you message, basically. I love his first one, the force is strong, with his family, great for any Star Wars fans. This ended up being shared a lot. Media picked up on it, celebrities got involved, there was a lot of traction, which was great for business, but that is not at all why we did this. And this is the takeaway from this experience here. Just because you're going to get a lot of exposure from it doesn't mean that's why you should do it. What we saw in this opportunity is that there was a father and a son in need asking for help, and we had the opportunity to go the extra mile to improve the situation for them. This is a customer who has shown us loyalty for years, and this was our opportunity to show that same level of loyalty and thankfulness back to them. So when you're doing your social care strategy, it doesn't all have to be answering complaints, things like that. Look for these opportunities, okay, that are going to give you the chance to give back to your customers. The rewards will come back to you tenfold. With that, just closing on a high note here, just want to thank everybody for coming out. Remember, use the hashtags. I appreciate you coming out and listening today. I hope you learned something. Thank you.
Thanks. We have a... That's great. Quick few minutes of any Q&A real quick? Yeah.
Hi, I work for a digital marketing agency, so we have a lot of different social media brands that we manage. How do you get all those different, like, various customers to care about their social media strategy as opposed to just letting you do it for them and them staying hands-off and not really caring?
So you're saying, as an agency, your clients, how did you get them to care about it?
Yeah.
When we go back into the initial couple slides there, talking about the benefits of revenue, customer loyalty, I would stress those as much as humanly possible. I mean, the facts don't lie. And not only that, show a couple examples of when companies do not reply at all. And here's another thing I always love to tell people, if you ever need to get more buy-in, take a company like the cable company. My apologies if there are any Comcast people in the audience. Have them send a message to the cable company and see what kind of experience they get. Have them send something to American Airlines, see what kind of treatment they get. Sometimes that level of frustration, and my apologies for picking on these, I've just had my own experiences with them, that can just put you in the customer's perspective and will frustrate the hell out of you and make you not want to use certain companies again. Try a little exercise with them on that, and then they'll understand, I think, the importance of it.
One more right here. Yep, we have time.
Hi, if you've had the experience of a negative issue associated with your company and it does start getting a lot of attention, is it better to, obviously respond to the issue where you can, but if you have other good things going on in your organization or whatever, is it better to flood things with good or kind of back off entirely until things settle down for a minute?
Excellent question. I would first say it depends on the issue, but if it's something, take the Brad's wife example for Cracker Barrel, who continued to post after that whole thing surfaced, and every comment on everything that they posted was just completely negative about the Brad's wife scenario. If it's a negative issue, you've already put your statement out there, I would go dark for a couple of days. Don't try and flood it out, because it's only going to keep your brand fresh in people's minds. And if it's getting shared a lot, this is something that people that have never had any experience with your brand, that's all they think about is that negative issue because of the media attention. Take a couple of days off. It's not going to hurt you. World's still going to turn, and you're going to get rid of those people who aren't going to interact with your customers, at a later date, or with your company, excuse me.
We have 45 seconds. Let's do it.
Sorry, this might be a long one, but
I'll talk to you afterwards.
all right. My name is David, and my company Snips. We're in the influencer marketing industry, and one of the things that we found is that the companies that do really, really well on social media are the ones that are driven by some sort of mission. They have some sort of philanthropic, or there's a story, some sort of unique story behind their brand, and So I'm wondering if you guys have adopted any sort of missions and philanthropic or something that you've found that has driven engagement on social and through your marketing strategy.
I would say, to be honest with you, not necessarily through craft. Full disclosure, it was very product driven. So not personally. However, if you do have that message, I mean, to be able to integrate that within your strategy is only going to benefit your company, I think, as much as possible. If it's a sincere effort, sincere, charity, whatever you're doing out there, I think that's great. In my personal experience, though, I've got to be honest, I have not, though. Sorry, I don't think that answers the question at all.
All right, one more time for Jimmy.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.